So now we'll look at some locations, temples, and inner sanctums that are sacred, right? So not just people are sacred, but objects, and in this particular case, temples, inner sanctums, and locations. So first, we have the first scene of Batman versus Superman, where we have the mausoleum of the Waynes, right? And so that specific spot on top is a holy place. It is a sacred temple for obvious reasons, right? It's like that's where the bodies are. The bodies are protected. You go there to commune with the dead, right? Or bring back up those memories, right? So all of that, when you're thinking about your past memories with someone that has passed on, you are in communion with them in some sense, despite them, having passed on. So this sacred temple is what allows for that communion. Similarly, the gravestones, the grave sites, similar idea. So that's a location where you can go to commune with your loved ones that have passed. Many instances all throughout the SnyderVerse. So we have in Zack Snyder's Justice League, when they're digging up Clark's grave, they do so carefully and slowly out of respect, right? They don't want to just be careless about it because it's a sacred spot. And Victor Stone looks at the graves of his mother and himself, actually, which is quite interesting. That also represents a holy space. We see the statues and the cross symbol as well there. Mountains, right? Mountains, holy mountains, can be sacred. So here we see in Man of Steel, Superman in communion with his divine father or heavenly father in Man of Steel on the mountain. So that tells you of its sacred quality, is the fact that he is actually able to communicate with the divine, right? And in Batman v Superman, he has a similar, though opposite, experience where he goes to a holy mountain, a sacred space, private, right? Nobody else is around, and he is able to commune with his earthly father, right? And you can see the difference because now he's in earthly clothes, right? Before he was in, divine, heavenly clothes, the Superman outfit. Now he's in earthly clothes, just like a, cool jacket. He doesn't even need to wear that, obviously, right? But he's wearing it because he's reconnecting with his humanity, right? And so this sacred space allows for that to occur. Notice the marking in the back as well. The stones, the cairn, kind of serve as a marking of that sacred spot. Sometimes just to mark a spot, but in this case, it looks like to me likely more an allusion to the idea of death, because that's also, they would also be done at burial sites. Houses, right? So Bruce Wayne's lake house is a sacred temple. The house he hasn't taken care of, the Wayne Manor, is a sacred temple. And in both these cases, the main idea is that you get to see that they're allowed to have a private conversation. So there's privacy associated with sacred space. A temple or a sacred temple is a place where you can go and share because of that privacy, because of that separation. That's a place where you can go share about your thoughts and ideas. The top picture, we have Bruce basically communicating to Alfred, I'm going through with trying to kill Superman.
You can't win this. It's suicide.
This may be the only thing I do that matters.
20 years of fighting criminals amounts to nothing.
Criminals are like weeds, Alfred. Pull one up, another grows in its place. It's my legacy.
So all these inner truths can be spoken. He speaks with Alfred below, and they share a back and forth as well.
I can't see that he needs the income from imported arms.
Regardless, I'll need to put a leash in his house, and I'm gonna need the suit.
The Bat interrogated 6 people and came away with nothing. It was Bruce Wayne that got the information.
Well, Bruce Wayne can't break into Lex Luthor's house.
Bruce Wayne won't have to. He's been invited.
So again, it's a sacred space where you can kind of hold a dialogue and speak your emotional truths, which we'll see more examples of. So in this next one, we have the bathroom, right? The bathroom is a sacred space. You don't think about it, but it's actually, yeah, the bathroom is a very sacred space. It's private. It's separated from the main affairs of even the house. So it's even more holy than the rest of the house. It's what you might even call the Holy of Holies, or Holy of Holy space, right? And so in these images, we see how that works out. In this scene, Superman, Clark, and Lois are able to actually have a discussion. They actually do talk with one another. They kind of go back and forth, and they don't come to a settling of anything, really, but they do share their inner emotional truths with each other, right?
They held hearings about what happened. They're saying that.
I don't care. I don't care what they're saying. The woman I love could have been blown up or shot. Think of what could have happened.
Well, think about what did
I
happen.
didn't kill those men, if that's what they think, if that's what they're saying.
Well, I'm saying I want to understand what happened. I'm saying thank you for saving my life. I'm saying there's a cost.
In fact, more so than he does elsewhere. And we'll talk about some other comparisons we can make there in other videos. But for now, just understand it as a sacred space. That's a private, sectioned off area where you can actually hold an honest, emotionally true discourse. You can share your true self, right? The bathroom is a place where you go to clean yourself. Even the name bathroom, bathe, to bathe, that's where you cleanse yourself with water by a shower or bath. So further, you of course relieve yourself of the taboo excreta, right? A sort of cathartic release of repressed or bottled up emotions, and you come out renewed, cleansed, and reborn, right? Once you've released all the bad stuff, that's what makes it sacred. That's where you release all the bad stuff. You feel good once you come out. So we have this Polynesian sense of the taboo as the sacred. So it's taboo what's actually done in the bathroom. And so it's separated off, but you come out and, you're good. And it's a relief. It's a catharsis, right? It really is a catharsis. And so here it's an emotional catharsis, being able to get out what you actually want to say, what is actually eating you up inside, perhaps, right? That's a sacred space, right? You've heard people, I'm sure, in situations that when you're in like a little group or something, it's like, this is a sacred space. We can share our inner truths, right? So something that's sacred is where you can be honest and open. Your nakedness is a reflection of that openness and honesty and truth of a person, right? We're not putting on any false exteriors, clothes or masks, personas. They're all representing the same thing. It's like we cover up when we're in the exposed world, and in the sacred place, you're free to be, in the sacred space, in the bathroom in this case, you're free to be your true self. So again, we have Bruce looks at his batsuit. He's clearly wanting to use it because it gives him this feeling of power. He goes upstairs in the privacy of his bathroom and he cleanses himself, right? He has this unjustified and perhaps one could say wrong attachment, negative and deteriorating attachment to the batsuit because it gives him power. When he goes to the bathroom, he's naked, right? Like Lois, because it's the bathroom. And so he's his true self here. He's cleansing himself. He's bathing himself. So the bathroom is where you cleanse yourself, is where you're free to be your true and open self, whatever you are, and not feel vulnerable or exposed to outgoing threats. You're in a safe space, right? It's another word people like to use. So safe space is a sacred space. We have another one. Again, the bathroom is a major element in Batman v Superman as an expression of a place where you can reveal and release anything that you're actually thinking, anything that's bottled up. You can release it. And so she's in the bathroom with General Swanwick. This is a sacred place where grievances can be aired out. Though she is seeking the truth, which is that's a good thing. She's seeking the truth, and she's doing so vigilantly. But she is also unloading it aggressively and without acknowledging her own involvement in what transpired in Nairobi, right? When the drone strike was about to wipe out the entire area, and when all those soldiers, Amajag's soldiers, were killed. That was, which we'll talk about later, a desecration of something that's sacred. So in some sense, you can say she unloads her waste and filth onto Swanwick, and he swiftly cleans her up by forcing her to confront her own involvement.
Fired in the Superman incident. Experts at the Pentagon can't ID it. We haven't been told the truth.
Here's the truth. A reporter got greedy for a scoop and went where she shouldn't have. Superman acted like some rogue combatant to rescue her, and people died. Don't invent a conspiracy theory to put back his halo. Or yours.
Later on, they're in the rain, right? So again, in the rain, that's the water coming down. That's the cleansing waters, right? Just like a bathroom, just like a shower. And so she's being cleansed. After being cleansed, she's showing her true, open, and honest self. She's like, you know what? I'm not going to try and come all aggressively. I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't have a halo over me, Mr. Secretary. I went into the desert. People died. It keeps me awake. It should. If you think that Superman is a murderer, then throw it away. But I don't believe you think that.
She allows herself to be vulnerable in that way, and then he actually ends up helping her out. So another sacred space, that has the element of being sectioned off from society is prison. Right? So we have bathrooms, mausoleums, mountains, secluded mountains. Now we have prisons. Prisons seclude, isolate, restrict someone from being able to interact with the common reality, with the common society. So this is again the taboo, or Polynesian tapu, meaning sacred, prohibited, restricted, set apart, or forbidden, or under protection even, right? Somebody that's in prison can be under protection. He's a sex trafficker. And so he is rightfully detained, he's rightfully imprisoned, and he represents something sacred. How is that, right? Remember, so you have to remember sacred doesn't only have positive connotation, it also has negative connotation. In this case, the sacred is whatever is uncommon and may include both generating and polluting forces. The sense in which the ancient Romans would use it, which is accursed, horrible, detestable, or that which can pollute, certainly applies to Santos. A criminal is kept separate from society so as not to pollute the public sphere. In another scene, we have Santos chained up, almost like a Christ imagery here, where he's like, his arms are up, and his name, after all, is Santos. The name Santos is primarily a male name of Spanish origin that means holy. As the cops approach him, the cop repeats the phrase, Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ. He branded him.
Right, so we have the arms up, his name's Santos, he's sectioned off, he's restrained. The cop says Jesus Christ to him. He represents a sacred being in some sense, but in the negative. So interestingly, if we go back to the word taboo, it's said it is from the Proto-Polynesian word ta, meaning mark, and bu, meaning especially, therefore the compound word taboo. So something that's especially marked for its special properties, right? So Santos is, of course, marked by the Batman.
Sign in, please.
Mark, man, you know what to do to people with this on them?
Let's go.
So, for obvious reasons, Capitol Hill is considered a sacred space, a kind of holy temple whereby higher ideals of democracy and talking to each other, as Senator Finch says, are upheld. You know you're dealing with a sacred temple when you have guards at the gateway or protecting the interior space. You have guards inside and outside. The crowd of protesters are the common folk or the profane horde yelling profanities that are kept far away from its holy interior. Only a select few have access to its otherworldly divinity. The scout ship is also a sacred holy temple, right? It's restricted off. Only certain people can enter. And it's got a connection with the divine, right? So the divine, alien technology, knowledge, and all of that from the universe, from the beyond, is kept here, right? So only a select few have access to its interior. So when Batman and Superman are in the building, right, and they're fighting, and Superman's on the ground, we are deep in the sacred temple interior, the belly of the whale, the sacred bathroom where masks can be removed and the cleansing waters of truth can renew.
You know, it's true what they say about little boys, born with no natural inclination to share.
Right? What this means is they aren't naturally inclined to share their emotional truths because it can make one vulnerable. However, it is in the privacy of the sacred bathroom or sacred temple where such truths can be shared, Batman wears layers and layers of armor to protect himself in this sort of superficial sense of protection, a type of protection that can be broken. So we see part of his mask is broken. When you see the mask broken, that's saying you're revealing something about the true nature of the man. That's what the outer layers of armor are supposed to protect from others knowing your true self, right? So too, there's this emphasis throughout the movie juxtaposing using force or using one's words.
This is how a democracy works. We talk to each other. Shadow interventions will not be tolerated by this committee. Neither will lies, because today is a day for truth.
So it's not just about talking, it's about speaking truly, speaking honestly, sharing your truth. So not just truth in general, but also your emotional, personal truth, who you are, right? There's a truth to who you are that only you know. The lady that Clark speaks to kind of has an alternative take.
One man decides who lives. How is that justice?
Talk to me. Help me change it.
With what? Your pen? A man like that, words don't stop it. You know what stops him? A fist.
In Senator Finch's case, it's speech, honest speech juxtaposed to false speech. In her case below, the lady, it's speech juxtaposed to action. So there's all these juxtapositions occurring, all these dichotomies existing to kind of pinpoint at what is the right thing, what is the good thing, what is the truly holy thing. This is a general theme. That's all I really want to say here. So again, there's this ideal of speaking versus action, or speaking as opposed to using force.
Funnel ferry, butter bar, funnel ferry, butter bar, funnel ferry, butter bar, funnel ferry. There's nothing wrong with the microphone. It's this new layer of armor. I'll just have to rewire.
Speaking honestly, there's nothing wrong with talking, is basically what Alfred is also meaning here. It's like there's nothing wrong with just speaking. Bruce, you could speak and share and open and talk. You can talk to each other, right? That's an ideal is embedded in that. It's the new layer of armor that's preventing you from doing so, right? There's nothing wrong with talking. There's nothing wrong with the mic. It's the new layer of armor, this false bravado, this false exterior to shell and hide one's true self. I also want to point out that when he actually says this, he's putting the mic to his throat. That's kind of interesting, right? A mic is usually like to the mouth, right? But this is to the throat. I think it's indicating, again, because of the themes, I think it's indicating this idea of the throat chakra. So if you go anywhere and look up the throat chakra, you'll see something like the definition given by anahana.com, which defines the throat chakra in the following way. So Vishuddha, or throat chakra, is the fifth of the 7 main chakras, located at the base of the throat. It governs self-expression, communication, and the ability to speak one's truth. Right? That's beautiful. That's exactly the thing that is representative of the divine or sacred feminine, is being able to speak your emotional truth, which is something that Bruce and other masculine figures, such as Steppenwolf, have failed to at some point integrate into their consciousness, and so they put on this false exterior as a protective shell rather than showing true courage and true strength in the vulnerability associated with speaking your truth. This outer layer of armor is this overcompensating shell that is ultimately weak, right? And so again, it's like a paper tiger. It's fake, like the sword of Alexander.
It's the sword of Alexander. It's the blade that cut the Gordian knot. It's a triumph.
It's a fake.
It's a fake. It's not the real thing. So again, true courage is related to humbleness and vulnerability in free expression of what you honestly think, and coming from a place that's not trying to be attacked, but just be honest, right? And that's it's a hard thing for I guess a lot of people to balance is exactly that. And so this is a main theme here. And the idea is that, of course, there are sacred spaces. It's a sacred space that opens up the opportunity for one that isn't inclined to speak their truths in general, it gives them the opportunity to do so, to be open and vulnerable in those sacred, protected temples, the bathroom, or, there's a privacy about it. Okay, so a man who has grown up has successfully integrated his inner sacred feminine to be willing to open up, right? So Lois comes to Superman's aid in this respect, Lois being an outward personification of Superman's anima. Superman at this stage still does not want to reveal his identity. And that's what's causing this increasing peak of energy in Batman. He's like, why did you say that name? Superman won't say it because he's not sharing a true aspect, a true human and humble aspect about himself. Naturally so, because he wants to protect, Martha, and his identity would be difficult, but it's still the masks. What Batman is asking for is like to reveal your true self. Let me know you. And in so doing, a new relationship is formed, right? It is in the strength of the sacred feminine to be emotionally vulnerable. And so Lois reveals by speaking an aspect of Superman's true nature. So she steps in as a physical embodiment of Superman's divine inner feminine, sharing something true, sharing a truth about him that leaves him vulnerable, right? So it's the vulnerability that this scene is getting at, the idea that males, boys, right? Boys, people who have not grown up, have not allowed themselves to share their emotional truths, right? It's, you grow up when you're able and willing to do that, obviously in the right context. You don't just want to be sharing any whole thing about yourself. But if there's a serious problem that clearly requires just speaking openly and honestly to get to a solution, and you don't want to because you feel that's going to open you up to vulnerability, then that's where the problem lies, right? It's not to say that you should just go out and share about your inner self. The solution isn't to share a lot. The solution is to not let your ego that you're trying to protect with these false exteriors get in the way of fostering something whole, healthy, and holy, right? By sharing your truth. So in those sacred spaces is where you can do that, right? So we're in a temple here. We're in a sacred temple here. Batman, in this case, is then cleansed with the truth and is renewed. He's gone through some powerful process that now sees, himself in Superman, because he sees the vulnerability of Superman. He sees that true nature rather than what Superman's trying to project in some sense. And what typically people are trying to project is this false sense of strength.